chapter 7, book of Luke. We're going to start about verse 36. And I want to take a text today, 4 words to change your life. 4 words to change your life. You know, words can really change who you are, what your life is, and the way you look at things, the way you address things, the way you approach things. You begin to think about this. 4 words that can change your life. I'm sorry, it's cancer. Some of you have heard that. Yes, you're pregnant. Change your life. You owe $10,000. Please take a number. 4 words that can change your life. Those things certainly can change your life. But today we're going to look at 4 words that can change your life for eternity. 4 words that can change your life forever. And we're going to be reading here in Luke chapter 7 about those 4 words starting at verse 36. And one of the Pharisees desired him that he would eat with him, and he went into the Pharisee's house, and he sat down to meat. And behold, a woman in the city which was a sinner, when she knew that Jesus sat at meat in the Pharisee's house, brought an alabaster box of ointment, and stood at his feet behind him weeping, and began to wash his feet with tears, and did wipe them with the hairs of her head, and kissed his feet, and anointed them with the ointment. Now when the Pharisee which had bidden him saw it, he spake within himself, saying, This man, if he were a prophet, would have known who and what manner of woman this is that toucheth him, for she is a sinner. And Jesus answering said unto him, Simon, I have somewhat to say unto thee. And he said, Master, say on. There was a certain creditor which had 2 debtors. The one owed 500 pence and the other 50. And when they had nothing to pay, he frankly forgave them both. Tell me therefore, which of them will love him most? Simon answered and said, I suppose that he to whom he forgave most. And he said unto him, Thou hast rightly judged. And he turned to the woman and said unto her, Simon, seest thou this woman? I entered into thine house, thou gavest me no water for my feet, but she hath washed my feet with tears, and wiped them with the hairs of her head. Thou gavest me no kiss, but this woman since the time I came in hath ceased to kiss my feet, hath not ceased. My head with oil thou didst not anoint, but this woman hath anointed my feet with ointment. Wherefore I say unto thee, her sins, which are many, are forgiven. For she loved much, but to whom little is forgiven, the same loveth little. And he said unto her, Thy sins are forgiven. And they that sat at meat with him began to say within themselves, Who is this that forgiveth sins also? And he said to the woman, Thy faith hath saved thee. Go in peace. Well, glory. Jesus came into a Pharisee's home. You know, Pharisees and scribes, they followed him around from time to time. They constantly were on his trail. They constantly were criticizing. They constantly were following, picking him apart at every opportunity that they could attempt to. But here they came, and he came to a Pharisee's house to sit down and eat. And a woman, who the word says was a sinner. Oh my goodness. You mean they allow a sinner to come in? Yes. She walked right in there. You know, it amazes me. I meet a lot of Christians. And you know what? They're right at home as long as they're mingling amongst themselves and amongst the people of their own thinking, of their own being, if they will. Yeah, they're fine as long as they're in a Christian crowd, but once they get around somebody that's a sinner, they begin to think, oh my goodness, what's he doing here? What do you think? We've allowed somebody to come? We've allowed somebody to be in the crowd with us? Well, I got news for you folks. I got lots of sinners that are my friends. I love them. I'm around them. I'm loving them. I'm putting my arms around them. I'm telling them that I love them and I care about them. I'm telling them there's a Jesus they need to know. He can change their lives. He can turn everything in their life around if they'll only cry out to Him. But he went, and in this house of this Pharisees, there's 4 words that's going to change her life forever. And he went with this, and this Pharisee, this woman came in, she had heard that he was going to be there. And she walked in with an alabaster box of ointment, and she stood behind Jesus, and she began to cry. She began to cry. She knew that there was somebody there that would change her life, Brother Matt. She knew there was something about to happen if only she could get to him. And she stood behind him. Didn't say she said anything, didn't say she began to speak, but it said she began to cry, and she began to wash his feet with her tears. All along, this self-righteous, holier-than-thou Pharisee that's sitting beside him began to look and say, what in the world is going on? Does he not realize that there's an old sinner behind him? Well, I tell you what, it reminds me, I'm not comparing myself to Jesus, by no means. But you know what? I've experienced a few things kind of like him. About 25 or 30 years ago, I got into playing bluegrass music. I loved it. I eat, sleep, breathe it. Drove my wife crazy. The last thing my wife loved was to hear the 5-string banjo. And I got consumed by it. I played it night and day. I left it out in the living room in a chair so that when I come by, I would pick it up, I would play it. That's how you learn. If you want to learn, that's how you learn. You play it every opportunity you play. Your fingers are sore, and when they're sore, you play some more. And I left it out for a purpose so that I would play it. Every chance I come by and pick it up, she said, oh, no, not again. She said, I've heard the Foggy Mountain break down till I'm about broke down. She even told me one time, she said, you know what, I believe you think more of that banjo than you do me. But I got consumed with it and I played it. And I truly believe the Lord dealt with me because there was a time where I played a lot of bluegrass gospel music and had an opportunity to witness to a lot of people. I still love the show. I'm not consumed like I once was. But I still play it, sitting right over here. Now and then I'll drag it out and play a little bit of something. I'll get the fever and I'll say, oh boy, I got to play it. But I used to go down to Bailey's Country Store. A lot of you remember where old Bailey's Country Store was on the curve there. And at that time, Joe Bailey he loved bluegrass music, and every Monday night they'd have a bluegrass jam. If you wanted to learn to play, that's the place to go. Because I'd hang out with one of them guys that come out of the woodworks. You know, they fiddlers, Claude Harmon would come out and, nowhere. He'd saw like nobody else. Learned a lot playing with guys like that. Now, I'd go downstairs and I'd play, and they knew who I was, they knew what I stood for, they knew the kind of person I was, and then they'd look over me and they'd say, hey, sing us one of the good Stanley Brother gospel songs, one of Bill Monroe's. And I'd sing what I knew, good old mountain gospel. And I had my chance to witness while learning to play the music the right way. Well, upstairs they had a different crowd, and I'm not throwing off on nobody, but they played all gospel music upstairs. And I had a fellow that I was going to church with at the time. He come down and he was highly offended that I was playing amongst the sinners. And he walked up and he whispered in my ear, he said, what are you doing?